Well, good evening, good afternoon. Hi, everyone. You may have recognized the style of that, but I'm very pleased. I'm very, very pleased. I love it. And thank you, Mocking Media. Another really impressive intro that I'm proud to have here on the channel. Um, Anyone who does not know who Mocking Media is, yeah, well, let me help you with the link right here. Go check out his channel. There's some awesome stuff over there. It's been a little bit busy with cartoons today on Twitter too. That's been cracking me up. But again, thank you. Hello, Mipit. Nice to see you. Hi, Mrs. Cassandra. Thank you. And to everybody else that I've already greeted. Thank you, Mocking. I love the music. It's like that hammer slam. It's great. But, and it puts me in the mood for something as yeah, I know, dirty, but obviously, like I just fake being untalented because I'm nowhere. I could not do that. Like, come on, like it's obvious. But thanks for bringing the humor, and thanks for being here. Well, let me get like I don't even want to laugh about this trial. Let me just tell you that this trial is taking all the humor out of me. Okay, there's already shenanigans, like too many damn shenanigans going on here. It's a serious trial. It's about assault. Here, I'm going to give you a little bit of a trigger warning, and the only one to say we use all the real words. I always have on my channel. I'm not going to couch my language to be delicate. Okay, I've never cared much about monetization or whether they're going to recategorize a video of mine because of language. I'm not going to curse, but I am going to say the word rape because that's what this is. This is a forced sex assault case against Danny Masterson of three victims, okay, who came forward, and the district attorney Reinhold Mueller, who is representing the prosecution currently, they came forward with the charges. Okay. But the shenanigans, it's not just what the case is about that is distressing to me. I can handle the subject. I really can. It happens. This is the real world. Okay. There's a right and there's a wrong. There's the alleged accused, and there are the victims who are coming forward. There's tons of cases like this. Okay. This particular one involved, whether they want to say it or not, Scientology. There is no avoiding the fact that Danny Masterson has been a lifelong Scientologist. There is no avoiding the fact that the three victims, the three plaintiffs, were Scientologists. The defense actually asking in pretrial motions for Scientology not to be mentioned. I thought that was funny. At the time, it was funny. I do greatly respect Judge Almeida currently. She is trying so hard to walk that fine line between what is admissible in regards to Scientology right now, because Scientology wants to say that Danny Masterson is being persecuted because he's a Scientologist, and that the mention of Scientology puts the religion on trial based on how people feel about it. That is not something that can actually be controlled. Okay. Judge Almeida has a long history of very violent crimes that she has tried in her court. She has had gang members, okay, vicious, violent crimes where people, everybody, her point in regards to Scientology, when she made her statement on what would be allowed and what wouldn't, she brought that up. She said, hey, what about the trial of gang members? Like, everybody has a feeling about a gang, or violent crime. But just because you know of violent crime or of gangs or have a feeling about it, you don't get turned away from a jury. You don't, there's going to be no way to sit a jury that has not heard the word Scientology. That is just not going to happen. I mean, that's just the defense is asking to be in an alternate universe at this point. And without getting Doctor Who on his defense team, I don't know how the hell that's going to happen. Because it's not. It's absolutely not going to happen. Scientology is going to be mentioned. Okay. These women have a right to mention it because the reason the charges are coming out so much late, they are saying it is about their perception of what was expected of them as Scientologists. Okay. But it's even worse. It's even worse. If we go back to last year, when Danny had other defense attorneys, Tom Mesereau and Sharon Applebaum, at that point, before, with all of the, depositions going on, all the discovery, all the pretrial motions, pretrial hearings, status hearings, blah, 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 all that legal stuff going on for the last few years. The reason Scientology, as far as documentation of their policies and what they do, the reason that is even in evidence at all is his own defense attorneys. The first thing they tried to do is to get the whole case slapped away based on the fact that he was only being persecuted because he was a Scientologist, that this was an assault on the religion, not Danny. Okay, the lawyers came out, flooded everybody with paperwork, motion after motion, trying to say that this was, First Amendment violations against a religion and blah, 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 blah. Did not fly, okay? They are the ones who brought the Book of Ethics into evidence to say that these women weren't even allowed to speak about this. They literally tried to pull you're part of this religion, or you were at the time, so you're not allowed to talk about it. Doesn't matter what happened to you. Our basis code of conduct says you're not allowed to speak on it, so you better not. You're in violation of a contract, so therefore it's illegal, so therefore there can't be a trial. And blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they did that. Then called foul when they said that, well, that might be a violation of the person's rights, that if a crime was committed about them, they're not allowed to speak about it. So indeed, you did kind of keep them from reporting it. There go, maybe we will come forward with these charges all these many years later, because it does look like perhaps allegedly Scientology as an organization interfered, or rather, shall I use the old word, obstructed the women from getting justice. Anyway, that was just the beginning a year ago. And it's still going on, because in the court now with the new lawyers, the defense is very, very upset. And we're talking about Philip Cohen and Karen Goldstein. They keep bringing it up that, hey, every time you mention Scientology, people feel a certain way. Okay. Jury selection has happened. We do have 12 jurors. We have 7 alternates. It happened quite quickly. I did speak on this before in the prior update. Judge Almeida was going to do that quick. She had a 2-page questionnaire for them, regardless of the 20-page submissions from both the defense and the prosecution. She said it's not going to happen. There's no way that people don't know Scientology exists. There's no way they don't know that Danny Masterson's a Scientologist, or that these women were Scientologists at the time. It's relevant. It speaks to what happened to them. It speaks to why the delay. It speaks to why we're here. Okay, it's not Scientology's fault what happened, but to ask for it not to be mentioned is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous, especially to ask for it to be called the club. I'm sorry, I found humor. I found humor. I think the man is really, really reaching. I think he's Philip Cohen, in all of his statements to date in the courtroom, he's really reaching. He's pulling out everything he possibly can to get the best defense for Danny Masterson, as he should. And I applaud him for it, actually. I applaud him for giving me a little humor. I applaud him because he's really working very hard for his client, as he should. And I give it to them. But he's already asked for a mistrial. Not once, not twice, but he's mentioned it 3 times. We're on day 2 of the actual trial. This is day 6, 4 days for jury selection and seating. Opening statement. Okay. Witnesses started yesterday with Jane Doe. Okay. We're on the second day. We've had 3 requests for the same mistrial that she's denied over and over again. And, it's okay to ask for a mistrial, but ask for a mistrial on the same actual reason 3 times in a row, that judge is going to get really annoyed with you. She has denied him the mistrial based on the fact that Scientology is coming into evidence, okay, or that the women speak on Scientology. Now, granted, after the seating of the jury in the first place and the opening statements, they had quite a few sidebars as the opening statements were going on, because both sides, the defense and the prosecution, are really kind of blurring the lines on Judge Almeida's ruling in regards to mentioning Scientology. And I know it does appear like I'm going on about these a little bit, but this is the hook of the case. Okay, this is one of the deciding factors how far this goes. Okay, the Supreme Court did not allow that this be tossed based on Scientology. Judge Almeida has allowed that it not be tossed based on Scientology with a mistrial. Okay. And we're still going to say the word Scientology. It's unavoidable. And I do find it quite ludicrous that they think it can be avoided. I mean, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. It's almost like saying that he appears in person and he's not to be judged for his red hair or his white skin. I mean, come on. Like it's that much a part of who he is his whole life. Okay. It's that much a part of this story because it is in how things were delayed. And the delay is a big fact that is going to be brought up over and over again by both sides. The defense, a good defense is going to focus on the fact that 17 years later, what can you actually remember? Are you sure? I'm sure we're going to hear, are you sure, over and over. We already have. Okay. In the opening statements, Philip Cohen did actually go for the actual length of time a little bit there, okay, about the Scientology prejudice a little bit there, okay, but actually also about the women speaking to each other over the years, about the timing of everything, focusing on statements by other police officers and everything instead of what Scientology had said to the women, focusing on outside sources that they possibly could be the reason that the women didn't come forward. That was very good. That's an outstanding legal tidbit to drop there, little precedent there, to the jury to get them thinking that, maybe it's not all just one thing. He's doing a good job with that. Okay, but the prosecution is also doing a good job. A very good job of laying out the individual cases. Now, so far, we've only heard the testimony of Jane Doe 1. Okay, who was a Scientologist, who was very good friends with Danny Masterson's actual personal assistant and several other members of Scientology. It was like a small group around the same age. They all hung together. They know multiple people in general. There was, they hung out at the houses and partying. She had exposure. They started with the day 1 testimony with an event that she's not even accusing him criminally of. And for a few moments there, I'm like, why? Why are you making her speak about this? Like, what are you doing? Like, she didn't press charges on this one. She's not like doing anything. This one can kind of take away from her testimony. But actually, when I thought about it later, I changed my mind. And let me tell you why. First of all, you didn't get to hear the testimony, but you do know the cases if you've been following it, because actually what they were going to talk about is all out there everywhere. Jane Doe's story, number 1, has been published. So has Jane Doe 2 and Jane Doe 3. So anything I speak of now is not the privacy of the court. It's already been publicly put out there prior to court into what their testimony would contain. I will say that I do get a lot of the day-to-day reporting from an amazing reporter and an activist against Scientology. And I'm going to use the word activist against because he reports the straight deal, and he's been doing it on all the legal cases against Scientology for quite some time. And he deserves a lot of credit for his dedication and the way he's doing it. And he's trying to do it fact by fact, word by word. And that man is Tony Ortega. And if you're not following him, there's a link in the description to his website. And he does have a subscription service called the Underground Bunker, which would give you daily emails in regards to what's going on in the trial. He was one of 2 reporters that was allowed in during jury selection. He saw the process. We did report on that about the questionnaires and the things that he had said. A lot of this is coming from him, and I want him to get full credit because we all know that anybody doing true crime or legal updates, all of our information is regurgitated from the public and the legal documents and from others who are doing it. And I, for one, will list all of them if I'm using anything. If I've read it from them, if I saw it from them, I list all the news sources and the legal document. Okay, they deserve the credit. He's doing the work. He's there. Okay, so he gets props for that. His name's going to be mentioned every time I report on this trial because it's a big part of it. Okay, I don't feel like he's being biased. I'm reading his actual word for word documentation of the testimonies and the processes, and he's being as fair as possible. He's just laying it out. He does make little comments here and there. Can't blame him. I feel the same. I'd be doing exactly the same. I would not be able to keep my actual opinion about certain things or snark or joke or whatever out of it. So I give him good credit. He's doing a good job. He's listing it out. He's telling you who says what and who's up what, and he's giving us the only fly on the wall type scenario that we're going to get in regards to this trial. Everything's going to be after reporting. Okay, he's the one there. Okay. He sat through Jane Doe's beginning testimony on day 5. Okay. She was the first witness. After the opening statements, which have been all over the news, they were basic. Mueller, the prosecution, went forward and said that, this is what happened. And he went on and detailed what they were going to lay out for Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3, why they got delayed, what actually happened to them, who was all involved. And I'm not going to go over those step by step because the witness testimony is going to redo it. Okay. And then, like I said, the defense came forward and just said, it's like, we're going to show you about consistency. We're going to show you that the testimonies they gave when they came forward years ago are not the same as now. We're going to show, basically, he just said that this is going to be just like every other assault case that we've ever come about. We're going for the witnesses. We're going for the victims. We're going to tear them apart because they are accusing him. And that is the standard tactic because they are accusing him and he has a right to defend himself. So the job of the defense is going to be to discredit the witnesses the best that they can. And it'll be a matter of walking that fine line on how they do it, on whether or not they get the jury's respect or not, whether they actually point out the facts or they just discredit for the point of discrediting. That's a fine line in all cases like this when it comes to the jury, because it can go either way. They can just think that you're doing it just because you're accused and you're just always going for the witness or the victim to discredit them. It's a fine line of them doing it accurately and getting their point across without looking too harsh. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. As far as so far with Jane Doe's testimony, there's already some issues. Jane Doe testified to the first incident that happened to her, which was in 2003, which is not one of the charges against Danny Masterson. Let me be clear. It is not she is not accusing him of anything in this one. They are stating it as witness and just that it happened. And basically, she came forward and said that she was basically, they go into great detail of how and where she ended up with him, because the assistant, Bree Schaefer, was supposed to meet up with her and then didn't because of a fight that she had with her husband. So she was left with Danny Masterson. They were at a bar. She had 2 drinks. Danny brought her both drinks. She said she started to feel more drunk than usual. He drove her back to his place. She said she was laughing, giddying. They were like this, that, and the other thing. She says she treats him like a brother, and she thought it was like, felt weird, and started laughing when he started kissing her, etc., whatever. Point being, they did actually end up to what she felt was, because she did not say no, a consensual act of what we would call, and I hate to use the term because you know me, I'm not king shame, but let's put in quotes, normal sexual activity of vaginal penetration. Yep. And kissing and goofing off and laughing. But that eventually she kind of like blacked out a little bit. And then things occurred to her that she had not thought about consenting to. And here's where the problem is. This could be an issue, and it's a sketchy one, and it's not one I'm comfortable actually talking about in this particular scenario, because it shouldn't be. It needs much more thought and much more time to go into. But there's always going to be that fine line of where is consent assumed, where is consent necessary to reiterate or reinstate in regards to what is already an agreed upon situation between two consenting adults. Because at that point, it appears through the testimony that that is what's happening, whether she was intoxicated or not and laughing. I think they bring that part forward to say to him that Danny may have had an inkling that she was not in her thinking clearly. Well, anyway, she says that she was turned over, repositioned, and that an act against her was performed that she did not consent to. Okay, but in Danny Masterson's favor during this one, when she uttered the word no, he stopped and left the room. To me, that means that 1, she said no, he heard it, he stopped. Or 2, he thought he was doing something wrong and she was now conscious and awake and he stopped. Either way, I'm going to go with the fact that when she said no, he stopped. All right. That was her first testimony in an assault. And I see issues here that the defense is going to be able to use this in Danny's favor as in regards to he actually knows the difference between yes and no. Okay. But also, so can the prosecution. I think it might have been rather clever of the prosecution to put that up first, because it shows that Danny does know the difference between yes and no. Because the second act that she talks about, which was quite emotional, a little more dramatic, and definitely something that happened against her will, with no prior consent, no getting naked and giggling and laughing and kissing beforehand, didn't go as well. Okay, and they testified about that. The interesting part about that testimony, for me, is something that happened after when they were going to go to break. So rather than go through the whole story of the situation right away, I do want to mention one thing. Already, we have issues with people not wanting to mention Scientology in the court. However, Danny's entourage is all his family members, his brothers, his sisters, his wife, okay, several friends that are high up in the Scientology court. They're all there. They're all there, okay. And one notable instance happened while Jane Doe, during the second part of her testimony, when she's going after a lunch break. We're now in day 6. This is today, before the break, the morning break. She starts to testify about the second assault. She gets very, very emotional at a portion of this assault where a pillow is over her head and she loses consciousness and breaks. And she feels like she's going to die. Like, this is actually an assault against her and she's in danger. Okay. She is testifying to this. This is her testimony. Okay. We haven't heard from Danny about it yet. Let's be fair. Well, what she's saying then, she gets very emotional on the stand rather. And what happened at that point? The judge calls for a break. Like they said, they're going to give her a break. They're going to recess for 15 minutes. Okay. And as everybody stands to let the jury out, that happens in the courts. We've watched plenty of court proceedings. It happens all the time. The jury leaves. Okay. And of course, Jane Doe is still sitting on the witness stand. She can't leave yet. Okay. Everybody is standing. The jury exits the room. Everybody sits down, except for the whole Masterson team. They stand and stare at Jane Doe for quite a number of time to make it notable, all in unison, all together. I'd like to know what you guys think. Is that intimidation? Is that like she's already crying and up there and they're just all like they made their point. They're all standing together. Okay. So what I would like to ask this defense is like, if you're going to do maneuvers like that, how dare you say that Scientology cannot be entered? You're going to act like you're all for one. If that's what it's about. How could you dare claim that we can't say the word Scientology in relationship to this damn trial? That just struck me. That just stood out when I read those words. Like, it's not going to be, they're all crying. Scientology's crying that Masterson's not going to get a fair trial. The defense is saying that Masterson's not going to get a fair trial because of Scientology. And you know why? Maneuvers like that. Go ahead. Put it in our heads. Yeah, do that. That was a wrong move. A wrong move. Because maybe we can't claim that they're purposely intimidating. Okay? But you just fed into everybody's head what the whole case was about. Them being intimidated not to come forward with charges against Danny Masterson. Like, what? Now, could it be clever? It could be also clever on their type. Maybe they're going for a mistrial to say that, yeah, everybody thinks it's Scientology now. Look, even though they are perpetrating the thoughts, But oh my. Hey, Juju. Welcome. Yep, very much intimidating and belittling. Exactly. Yes, Dirty. I'm sorry. Let me just go through before I continue on. I've been talking for a bit. Let me check some of these comments before to see if you have questions. Yes, it is in California. Actually, all of the events that he's being accused of happened in California. This is the Superior Court of California, which is what they call their criminal court. Okay. I do think it was a bit, Jujubee, very intimidating and very belittling to the witness. But, they're not really worried about her feelings at this point, are they? She's testifying quite graphically about something that he did, and they making a point, But like the thing that stuck out to me is that they're going to do something like that. And at the same time, because not when they came back, okay, again, he's asking for a mistrial, and the judge has to again tell the defense, your mistrial motion has been denied. Because they were upset that he kept bringing up the fact that why didn't you go to any? Because after she reports the event that happened, she says she ran into Luke, which was one of Danny Masterson's friend and a friend of her, Luke Watson. He's very high up there. He wanted to take her immediately to Scientology to sit with his mother, who was Sharon Watson, who's very high up there in the presidency council or whatever, to speak to her about what happened because, quote unquote, Luke had said, per the testimony of Jane Doe 1, that Danny has already been there. They're waiting for her to talk. Okay. Instead of going there, she went to a family event. She went right to her family's house. They were having a barbecue, whatever. She didn't go. Okay. When she did finally, they were telling her that she couldn't use the R word. Okay. All three witnesses, victims that will be testifying, have said that they were told things like it couldn't have happened that way because, if you're in a relationship with him, it can't happen. It can't happen during, anything, with someone from Scientology who is an upstart, like above you. Okay. Doesn't happen. Not in their organization. It's the language that they used that made the women feel that they had not the right to pursue anything legal about these particular charges. And yet Scientology, Danny Masterson's defense team, Danny Masterson, want you all to ignore that fact and to try to say that it's just the time that they just got together and it's the Me Too movement or something. Weinstein, everything's Weinstein's fault, because of Me Too and Weinstein, that's why Danny Masterson is on trial. Not his actions, not anything he did, not the fact that they weren't allowed to pursue it years ago. None of that. None of that has anything to do with it. It's all Weinstein. It's all the climate of going on. And I will agree that the climate going on now is making it easier for people to come forward. I don't want to say easier because damn, what's going on here in this trial, these testimonies of the victims coming forward and even Danny sitting there and having to listen, that is not easy. I don't mean easy. No, let's just say that the climate has changed to the point that they've made it, you're a little more confident coming forward that actually you may be heard. I'll say that actually your voice might be heard a little bit if you come forward on either way. Come in regards to against Scientology, in regards to abuse in general, and I don't mean just by women, I mean men too. It is more of a focus right now with everything that's going on. It's from another trial that please don't make me say the name. I'm so tired of saying that, so I won't. Well, you all know. These big cases hitting the news, like this one here with Masterson and Scientology, they do all trace back to rules, regulations, just societal changes that are going on in regards to that Me Too movement and things. And when you read up on, if you put Masterson Trial update in your Google or in any of your search bars right now, you will find articles that are linking it back. Oh, down the road from Masterson, Kevin Spacey's on trial. Weinstein, Paul Haggis is on trial. This one's on trial. They're all just picking on the men. In some cases I could see that it's true, but fair justice does have to happen too. Okay. I think that the DA in this case feels he has a strong case because he had to do a lot of maneuvering to get this to trial. There was a process. Okay. It needs to be noted that these cases, these charges individually by all of the Jane Does 1, 2, and 3 cannot be tried individually because of the statute of limitations expiring, even under the extenuating circumstances. That was the actual, what they are considering an obstruction or a prevention of allowing them the harassment and the holdback that occurred based on the organization of Scientology that they all belong to, based on their practices. Okay, their Scientology is actually coming forward with their spokesman and saying there's no language in the Book of Ethics that says you can't go to law enforcement. There is language that says you cannot report against someone above you in Scientology outside of the organization. That language existed. That language was submitted in the Book of Ethics by the defense. That's there. So, they're just trying to skirt it a little bit. Yes, it's true. Nowhere does it say black and white, do not go to the police. It does not say it. Not in those words. It doesn't. It says plenty of other things that mean the same thing. Okay, in their practices of when you go and report something about somebody else, what happens and the process also is in a way to intimidate them from going outside of the religion to say anything to anyone about anything that happened. Okay, the practices itself that they use every day, that they still use right now and admit to using right now, fine. But at the same time, they don't want that known because it will be bad in the trial. It is the reason for the delay. But it didn't hold up legally and the case still happened. So they're going to have to get over it. They're just going to have to get over it. It's gone up to SCOTUS and everything. And sorry, it ain't going to happen. The religion of Scientology is not on trial here. Okay. The practice of delaying them from coming forward might be. Okay. But not the religion itself. Okay. This is one small part of it. Okay. Small part of Scientology. Like Danny Masterson is not guilty of being a Scientologist. That's not why he's on trial. They're not trying to prove that. Okay. That's not what they're saying. It's about having relationships with people against their will. It's about consent. It's about violating a person. Okay. That's what it's about, not about Scientology. Okay. Scientology is the loophole that everybody wants to use to either make it huge or irrelevant. Okay. The Scientology side on pro for the defense and Danny, they want you to say that he can't get a fair trial because of Scientology. No how, no way, no way. Okay. And then the prosecution wants to say, no, Scientology is the reason for the delay. Scientology is why we're here this late in the game. And the way that they felt, the victims felt about what they were supposed to do is what has caused this delay, because they know the defense is going to go over them for their memory, for this, for that, and all. And actually, to show you why I say that, I'm going to take Danny off for a minute. Bye, Danny. Let me share the witness list. This was also put out there, made public, and it was filed. So just see if I can make it a little bit bigger for you. All right. It's just a black and white list. Nothing fancy here, right? Well, you'll see my point in a minute. Yeah, but see, let me pull it up by itself so you... All right, there you go. Now, this is a prosecution list. This is Reinhold Mueller is a deputy district attorney in the area. He's going to call from the Los Angeles Police Department all these detectives that were involved in the investigation, taking the report, doing the interviews with one or more of the Jane Does, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm not going to read all of their names, but you can read just quite a few of them, right? From the actual office of the district attorney itself, we've got 2 of the investigators, Holly Williams and Lou Santella. As far as civilians, okay, we do have the Jane Does, okay. We also have a Jane Doe 4 that was alleged to be attacked, only part, all right. They're not part of the charges in this trial, but she may be allowed. There was a lot of discovery on this. There were motions on this that her testimony wasn't pertained if there were no charges, but actually pertinent parts of her testimony may come through. She may be able to ask questions in regards to certain procedures and all that happened, but not the actual allegations. Does that make sense? Like certain things that happened as far as in Scientology or against her. Okay. The husband of Jane Doe is scheduled to appear. This is all for the prosecution's list. Bree Schaefer, who is Masterson's assistant. Jennifer Wyman, who is the publicist. Jennifer Brill. These are all Scientologists, okay? Cedric Bixler, who is Jane Doe 3's husband. The mother of Jane Doe 1, Rachel Dujeka. Damian Perkins, who's a former Scientologist. Sean Fabos, who is the son of Steve Fabos. Steve Fabos and his wife are major, huge Scientology contributors right now, and have recently, Josephine did a fundraiser like within the last month that was millions and millions, so they're very, very active. This is pertinent because Sean Fabos has been in this Scientology for a long time. He runs a recording studio in the Los Angeles area, I believe. And he's, he also an active Scientologist and is aware of all the players, and he's going to be giving testimony. And him actually testifying is a bit of a problem because of the active nature of his parents in Scientology right now. And it's going to be curious, like what actually comes forward, because he is still believed to be a current Scientologist from the last thing that I read. Lisa Marie Presley, yes. She left Scientology in 2014. as it says. Martin Singer, who's an entertainment lawyer. Okay. Um, he was part of the grand jury testimony that went through. Okay. Jordan Ladd, the actress of Cheryl Ladd, Rachel Smith, Marie O'Brien, formerly Giovanni Ribisi. Okay. Well, these are singer-songwriters. Carmen Llewellyn, another former Scientologist, Jane Doe's mother, and Eric Geisler, who's named in the papers released by Marty Rothbard. Now, you all might remember that name. He came out really hard on them. And what actually was, spying and this and that, and people, and he actually was like reporting on it and then not reporting on it. And there's actually an article circulating on Twitter right now about that can give you some insight in it. I believe Chris Shelton just did a video. If you know Chris Shelton, he also reports on Scientology, and I believe he is the one. But I will link it. I should have linked it already if I was going to mention his name, and I apologize to you. But Marty Rothbard, there's some back and forth all going about that. I don't really know how he's going to pertain in here with this, but Eric Geisler was named in the papers as being, somebody. They're going to show the intimidation tactics. It's a pretty good point of reference for how things get done, so to speak. But they only have one expert, Mindy Mechanic, a PhD. Okay, here's the defense witnesses. Yeah, there's nothing there. Yeah, nope. Nope. I didn't forget to type. No, I didn't lose page 3. Truly, that is all that is listed as the defense witnesses from Philip Cohen and Karen Goldstein. Okay. They have a forensic toxicologist, Dr. Buffington, Dr. Eisen, a memory expert, Dr. Scott Fraser, a neurophysiologist and memory expert. They also have Masterson's assistant. That alone tells me where they're going with this. They're going to go about the memory. They're going to go and try to use experts to say they couldn't possibly remember what they remember. Can it be trusted? Because remember, all we need is doubt. Okay. I wasn't really too thrilled about that, but because to me, that's the reality of these cases. It always comes to that, and I really do think that I think people should settle more on these. I really do. I think it takes a lot for a victim to come forward and testify. I do. I also think it takes a lot for a plaintiff for the defense to sit there and have to listen to it. And I am, all right, I'm going to say something y'all not going to be too pleased about. It's going to be contrary to what I do on a daily basis here. But I'm actually glad that nobody's in the courtroom videotaping this, or that it's not being live streamed. I am, because of it's about consent, and because it's about things being done against consent. Okay. Not that I don't think that they don't deserve for it to be as public as possible if that's what the victims want. I mean, I do in a way, but they are going by Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3. So they do realize that they have had so much harassment, and it has been hard for them to go through, but they still want to go through with it. Okay. And I know that Danny Masterson deserves his day in court, and that everybody deserves to know what's going on and all of that. Well, some of these things get played better out when the parties just come together and try to admit that maybe like something happened here that shouldn't have happened, and let's just take it. In Masterson's case, he doesn't really have that opportunity. I do have to give him credit for that, or not credit, that's the wrong word, but can state for reasoning as to why he would be pushing so hard against any of this happening and not willing to settle with anybody, not willing to do any kind of negotiations with anyone about anything. Because there's 3 of them, and the way that he's being charged, he could get life in prison. Because it's 3 strike. Okay. And so, I want to respect everybody, but I want to respect his rights too. He should be fighting as hard as he can for that, especially if it was, I don't know. When there's patterns like this, it's really hard to stay as unbiased as possible. The testimony is salacious. We all get pulled in, okay? But, like that first incident, we have to admit that there are lines where people get confused. The second part, where Jane Doe actually, after the lunch, and comes forward and testifies, Jane Doe number one, that she knew it was not consensual because she was sleeping and she did not agree for anything to happen. She woke up during the act and he was already, her words, penetrating her in the middle of everything. She started fighting. Here's where the consent issue comes in. If you start fighting back and he's still going and he puts a pillow over your head so he can keep going, the fact that he might think that she didn't want to have anything to do with it, that's like out the window. I mean, I do. I mean, there will be some that say that no, you could possibly think that she was like into it. And yes, that's kind of probably what we're going to hear on the defense side. They may even try to pull in prior acts or anything with them. But for Jane Doe 1, she was not in a relationship with him. She woke up after drinking a red drink that she says she got so in touch. She was passed out. And she woke up to that. And like, listen, there could be misunderstandings. Like who knows? Like she was tipsy. They had conversations, whatever. I'm not going to speculate on anything that actually happened between the two of them. I'm an adult. Like, and I hope that you all are too. We all know that that she could have gotten to that bed two ways. He could have, while she was drunk, put her there against her will and took her clothes off. Yes, that could have happened. The scenario 2 could have happened too. She could have been drunk, laughing, giggling. They took off their clothes. She passed out, falling asleep. Either way, when she woke up and the act was happening, however she got into that bed, whatever that scenario, when she actually woke up and it was going on and she said no, perhaps he should have walked away like he did the first time. And I think that's why they actually put forward the first incident, to show that he knew the difference between no and no. I know, Mippet. I know. Like, and I hate, like, okay, I'm going to get a lot of heat for talking as direct as I do about this kind of stuff, but you all know that's my way. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I am going to show you both sides, regardless of what my actual opinion, if you talk to me personally, is about any of it. It is only fair in a legal proceeding to lay it out on both sides. Also, I want to prepare you for what you're going to hear in my next updates about it, when there is more testimony, when the defense goes at her. We're going to get mad, some of us, because we're all victim advocates and we don't want this stuff to happen, right? Like you're like, and especially the women here in the chat and who are listening on YouTube, you're going to say no. No means no. I don't care what part of the act. I don't care if I got naked, danced around that room, jiggling whatever at you for 5 hours. If I say no, no is no. Like, we all take that right. Okay. Fair or not, the men have a huge burden. Okay. The actual, let's just call it the penetrator, actually has a huge burden on consent here. Okay. They really do. They really do. And I feel for them. It cannot be easy. It cannot be easy to try to differentiate. But I would actually say that Mr. Masterson should actually know when a person is conscious or unconscious. And I know he actually knows what the word no means, because Jane Doe actually testified for it in the first instance. Mm-hmm. Thank you, T. King. Thank you. I'll take that. It's a very good, as a compliment. I can't help but be this way. I can't. I'm going to be like direct about it. I don't think there's any confusion when somebody's unconscious about there being actual consent. Was she in the bed? Yeah, she was. How she got there, we don't know. She says she was placed there. I'm sure he's going to have a different story. We don't know if Danny Masterson is actually going to testify for himself, but I'm sure the defense is going to bring up the other scenario. We're going to hear the other side of it, and we haven't yet. Okay. I chose to do my update today based on the fact that he pissed me off. The defense pissed me off And it's why I'm doing it today instead of Friday. Wouldn't it be reasonable to wait until all of the testimony for the week is in? And yes, next week and the week after that, you'll get one update a week with the whole week on it. And I'll try to put my spin, my commentary, so to speak, or my outlook, my opinion on everything that happened for the week based on what Tony Ortega is saying and based on what all the articles are saying on what happened in the court, based on the statements from the judge, the statements from the defense, the statements from the plaintiffs and the witnesses. And I'll do that once a week. But right now, it pissed me off. This is day 2 of a trial, and we've had a request for 3 mistrials for the same reason over and over. And they're still on an issue that was settled, and I know the exact date. On October 3rd of 2022, Judge Almeida put her listing out as to how Scientology would actually be spoke about in this trial. And both sides need to abide by that. Okay. Now, granted, Judge Almeida did say to the defense that she did think that the plaintiffs mentioned it a little too much in the opening as far as how things were going. She didn't stick to what the actual victims' perception of Scientology and how they perceived it and how they were acting in regards of what they thought was expected of them. It went a little bit further than that. And so the judge said, you can make an admonition on it, which is like where she would read to the jury, listen, you got to do your job and you got to kind of ignore this or ignore that or whatever. And you got to like that. But she didn't say definitely. She said, you can go ahead and write it. You could go prepare one. You get it out of your system. Like, I understand. Okay. You get it out of your system. I'm not so sure I'm going to use it, but get it out of your system. Well, she has repeatedly, several times, even today, said that, hey, this is my ruling on it. We're going to talk about it only in this context. Like, both of you behave. She's not happy with either one of them. And I found it curious that some articles are actually saying that she only went after the DA, and that's not true, because she actually she went after the defense too and said, you can stop with the over objecting on this issue. I hear you. Stop. You can object. If you object every time the word Scientology is said, we're going to have a problem. Right? She didn't use that language, but you know what I mean? She said that. She said that repeatedly to him. No. Like, you cannot sit there and object every time we mention the word Scientology. There's more going on here than your obsession with that word. Okay. She wants to move forward. She has a tough job. I can't tell you how much I respect what she's going to be going through and how I feel for her. Like, this is only like day 2, and she's already had to slap them both back. She's already got a witness who is so emotional on stage, and then she has to watch a flagrant what I would call an intimidating process, a point made in her courtroom that I'm sure she wasn't happy with. Sean asked me the question, was she drugged? Jane Doe says that Danny provided in incident 1 both drinks, got them from the bar for her. They were Greyhounds. She's drank them before, but she said for some reason they hit her much harder than they ever had before. She said Danny had made a comment, quote unquote, that the third one was stronger. It was a triple. And that might be why she felt that way. In regards to episode 2 that she recounted, which is being charged against him as forcible assault against her will, she said that he gave her, when she showed up to pick up the assistant's keys and some things, he gave her a pink drink. There were many people there. This is common at Danny's house. You know, people are circulating whatever they're drinking. They're doing the hot tub. They're of that, age that, they don't have a lot that they have to do. And they're like, hanging out, whatever. It was a common occurrence. I mean, she showed up. She was handed a drink by Danny. It was a pink, sweet drink. She drank some of it, immediately felt off, to the point that she felt like she was ill, like going to pass out. He then, he was taking care of her. But she does feel that she was drugged. There is going to be talk back and forth about that, about how she does drink and not actually have those reactions, that she did feel like she was not in control of her body at the time, and that she was passing out back and forth. They Her testimony is actually honest to the things that she can't remember exactly, and she will talk about timing and stuff, like she's not sure about how much time, this and this and that and things like that, going forth. She remembers waking up naked again and just trying to find her clothes, getting her clothes, going downstairs, running into Luke Watson again, and then being approached to the fact that, he's trying to help her, but he wants her to go to Scientology and speak to the presidency there, the council on events or something like that, to his mother, you know. Um, but yeah. She feels like when she woke up, she felt like she had been drugged, because she said she got that like kind of hazy hangover. She still can't remember clear. She's like trying to focus on things. She's just trying. All she knows is she feels fear. She felt violent. She felt that she had to get out of there. She had to get out of there, because also in this event, she felt fear for her life. She's talking about a gun that was brought up. It was not put towards her. She was not threatened with it. As far as in her face or to her head, or I'm going to shoot you, just to f up, like shut the f up, kind of thing. Because he heard somebody outside the door. This was absolutely coming forward that something the defense is focusing on in regards to this testimony is, was there a gun or wasn't there a gun? Which is not actually the point of the testimony at this point for event number 2. That isn't it. But I think he's using it, her vagueness on what exactly some missteps in testimony about the gun, to prove that she doesn't recall exactly everything. Does she need to? I mean, that's a question for the chat right now. I know these things are hard legally to prove back and forth, but does she need to remember everything word for word exactly to be taken serious in any of this? If she says Danny wasn't wearing any clothes and he's found to have been wearing a t-shirt, does that discount her testimony? I mean, I do think it brings some doubt, because I mean, actually with the clothing thing, that would be a big thing. She could see it, right? But she's already saying she blacks out in and out, that she felt like she was drugged, It does make it murky, right? And both sides can use it to their advantage. And that's what I'm finding fascinating. Who's going to use it better? Mm-hmm. Let me look. Questions, because I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon. Robsky says, I've had a drink spiked. I realized what was happening and made a swift exit. Got home, collapsed on my bed, and slept for 7 hours. Woke up suddenly and had to chunder urgently. Not pleasant at all. I get it. Get it. And in this case, she had multiple people around who saw her get out of control and went to help her. And actually, Danny Masterson intervened and said, no, I will, and took her upstairs to his room. Now, that testimony, people are going to have to testify against that. There was multiple people around that saw this go on, that Danny wanted control of the situation. Now, was he being controlling in the situation because it was his house and he's the house guest and he wants to take care of a friend? I'm not sure. I get it. I do. And I'm sorry that happened to you, Rabsi. That had to be scary, It's just like, isn't there a law that states a person cannot give consent of any kind if they are in any way inebriated or intoxicated? This falls under the true consent kind of statement, Dirty Uncle Sal. It's a good question. And it's one that I want to do a lot of talking about it sometime in the future, because of the way the states handle consent and where are the lines of consent. Does actual maturity about a situation, familiarity about a situation, the difference between a 16-year-old and a 50-year-old, like, is there really consent, even though she's legal at 16? Hey, there are a lot of stuff that we could go into on that. But in regards to your question specifically, when someone is inebriated, it depends on to the actual point. Okay, it has to be proved. But common sense, I mean, doesn't it make common sense that if you're inebriated or this, that, or the other thing, consent could be iffy? And that's why, gentlemen who are, going, uh, everybody has a couple of drinks together, and we do, like, it is a way of socializing. I myself like some wine. I have been in situations where I'm having some wine and I'll meet somebody and you start having a talk, but how far it goes. And then here's the thing. And this is where I really feel for the issue on why it gets so uncomfortable for gentlemen to even talk about these legal cases, to even contribute to the conversation. Because when it comes down to it, they have such a burden on trying to figure out whether you're actually consenting or not. It's so freaking unfair that all I would say is that I myself, as a woman, am very clear about consent, probably too much. They probably tell me to shut up because I want to take that uncomfortableness away. But it's not always like that. And there are, especially in situations about drinking and stuff like that. And I have been told by an actual partner who we were in an actual committed relationship at the time that because I had drank like a little too much wine, nothing was going to happen because he wanted no misunderstandings later. And we were in like an ongoing years relationship. Like this wasn't like, a couple of weeks or whatever, but like some, I can understand why he felt that way. He, because it happens, you don't remember everything, and he felt he needed to protect himself against any accusations of his bad breath or whatever I might have said the next day. I'm making a joke about it, but it's a really serious subject. I just do understand the pressure, the pressure. And legally, I think more can be done about that. To help with the guidelines. I do. I just don't know. I just don't know. Okay. Juju says, as a juror, that would lend credence to her testimony for me when the witness admits facts that are not favorable to them. Juju, I actually feel that way about it too. I think that the prosecution is putting it there to specifically, if you're talking about the first event, if you're talking about the first event where she says that quite possibly could be looked at as consensual because she never said no. She was laughing, giggling. She said to him, we're like brother and sister. This is incestuous. Like she made little jokes, stuff like that. Well, she never said no. And she admits that she did not say no, even when she knew she was having intercourse with him. She never said no. She said she realized she thought it was funny. She doesn't understand. She didn't feel in control of herself. But she says she never said no. She totally admits that she never did. But then when she did say no, that he did stop. And I think that when she's admitting all of this, and I think it also adds credibility because the prosecution is putting it out there like we're aware of this, and you could try to use it against us, but this is the honest truth how it happened. And we're going to put it out there because we're going to show you that Mr. Masterson knows the difference between yes and no. And he does know when to stop with lack of consent. Okay. And I think that that's going to go in there, a little more in their favor. I was actually, mulling, when I first heard about it, I was like, why would you do that? And then dirty Uncle Sal comes back, but I can also see how a jury could see the witness as less credible, giving different statements on the same event. Exactly. When they go back and forth about this, about the gun you're talking about here, I get it. And if you're talking about the gun also in your comment, Juju, then I also get that too, that she's at least saying, I felt like I was drugged. I can't say clearly. I know I reached for it in the drawer and he slammed the drawer in my hand. I'm not sure. She's not sure if it was in the drawer at the time or if he had it. That's where this is all coming back and forth. At one point, she said the gun was in the drawer, so she reached for it. At the other point, she said that it was his hand while he was talking to her. So like there's a little bit of speculation going back and forth like that. Where was it? It could have been in both times, and she could just be having one of those things where the time frame for her, she did see it in his hand. She did see it in the drawer. Okay. But she's like not expressing herself clearly as to which event happened first and when and whatever. And like I said, they both can use it against either way, but she's being honest. I mean, that you have to say that she's at least being honest about what she remembers and what she doesn't. All right. Let me get down to the bottom here and then go back up. Oh, someone's tolerance can be affected by many factors. So I see how a law about intoxication can be iffy. I was just wondering. Yeah, it would be hard to regulate, right? It's like because at one point do you lose like the ability like that? That's like a personal thing to everybody, you know. It's just like there should be some common sense kind of rules. And Aaron says, "Yup, in California, they have to be so inebriated they are unable to say no, unconscious, yes, or to the point that they can't talk or they understand that." This is true, and that is why the fact that she woke up, she was unconscious. You can't give consent while you're sleeping, by the way, or unconscious. You can't. You can't. But again, there's the talk on how she got there. Okay. Hey, Wrecker. Nice to see you. And oh yeah, is that intimidating? I let me just find that comment again. I just saw the comment you just made about, oh, let me just put that gun on the nightstand here. Like it's not intimidating at all. Like, yeah, I'm gonna just here it is. I'm gonna place this gun on the table while we talk for no reason in particular. Exactly. Like I get you. I get you. It's like, just the actual having it there, she could perceive that as intimidating for sure. Yeah, I get it. It's hard to, without actually seeing all of the testimony word for word. I would recommend if you are interested in actually that, because we can't get those documents now, it's going to happen like possibly after. If you want to hear Tony Ortega's actual view, he's trying to, as it happens, dictate out who said what as they go and give you a general idea of the whole thing. And he's going like almost word for word. But of course, there's typos. There's going to be misstatements, like saying it's not going to be the court transcript, you know. But if you want, I would recommend subscribing to him. Unfortunately, it is a subscription service to his the underground bunker, and he deserves it because he is a reporter. He does this for a living, and it does cost money to do it. So I'm not taking that away from him. I'm just saying I can't provide. I am uncomfortable providing the word for word stuff that he's writing about that, knowing that he's behind a paywall. It just wouldn't be right. But I do say that I find the information he is providing to be diligent, to be straightforward, and to be worth being behind a paywall. That I'm paying for it, and I find it credible. And that's all I'll say. Like, I don't want to endorse him like, he's all that in a bag of chips, but I'm saying I'll do it. I'll tell you that I would do it. Yeah. Oh, yes, I heard about these. And welcome. Hi. Hi, Mandy. There's apparently nail polish now that if you stir your drink with your finger, the polish will change color if there's something in your drink. Yes, they have multiple of these, like Rohypnol and all these other drugs that people do to alter your consciousness while you're out and about, that you can just dip it in and you could find it that way. Unfortunately, yeah, totally. And it's a shame that you would have to do that at a party at a friend's house, but hey, like I know that people prepare to do that when they're out and about and you're, at a bar, watch my drink. Nobody leaves anything unattended. Everybody goes and gets their own drink anymore. You don't accept drinks from strangers. I mean, we've been educated, right? All of us, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not think it doesn't happen to them too. But hey, I'm just saying. It's a shame. This all happened in someone's home in a group of friends. Mhm. Yeah, he does sound out some updates to his free subscriptions too. He does, Juju. Like you can just submit to him and he sends some of it out. But the little videos about like during the breaks and all, and the actual like the longer ones that have all the big detail are behind the paywall. Well, he does do a lot of content free. He does. That also. Thank you for reminding, because I was negligent in bringing that part of it up too. Okay. Aaron, I'm reading your comment, but I'm not going to put it up, but I kind of agree. But like, I'm still not going to put it up. Okay. it's like, it is, definitely. But on that, if you guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I don't want to go word for word like what she said, but basically that's just the testimony. We left with Jane Doe 2. Okay, we left, like I said again, with a call for mistrial, and the judge again reminding everybody that this trial's not about Scientology, but we're going to mention the word Scientology, because let's just face it, it is part of it. It's the elephant in the room, as Cohen said in his opening statements, well along. It's the elephant in the room. He seems to think that no matter what, everybody's going to go against Scientology, and just consider Danny Masterson guilty because he's a Scientologist. I don't necessarily agree with that. The judge did address it in the jury selection questionnaire. She did ask anybody if they saw documentaries or anything that had anything to do with Scientology, if they knew what Scientology was, if they heard of Danny Masterson. These are all reasonable questions that would be asked in any trial about the defendant, especially if it's a celebrity. Same thing happened in quite a few other trials that we've seen. The difference is you can know about Scientology and not be biased about it. Okay. Just because you've heard the word Scientology doesn't mean you can't make a decision on whether somebody's guilty or not on a charge that has nothing really to do with the act. Because that's what the jury has to do here. Let's be clear. They have to decide if Danny Masterson had relations with these women against their will, without consent, if he violated them. It is not about whether they're a Scientologist or he's a Scientologist. That's all about how they got here, the delay, the reason they felt the way they felt that they couldn't report on him. Because that needs to come in, because the defense is going to use it for credibility as to how long they waited and the timing and all of that. Yes, mocking all of them. This is the problem. That's what I'm talking about. Scientology doesn't want to be mentioned. And yet all three victims are Scientologists also. All of the claimants are Scientologists, and they were following Scientologist rules, procedures, and regulations in the non-reporting of what happened to them. They were talked to by many other Scientologists. Okay. This is the problem. That's why it's so ridiculous that Scientology feels like the defense feels you can't mention Scientology, and no, I get it. Mhm. This is curious. There are some fieldcraft type skills that can mitigate the risk of having someone slip you a Mickey. If that fails, there are tests, and yes, it's a sad state. And I agree. Yeah, I do. In record about that, whenever I go out with someone, I won't touch them for at least 24 hours after any alcohol is consumed, because I'm so paranoid about it. It's just my rule of thumb. I hear you. I have brothers and they talk to me and the pressure is great. But that's actually a good rule, you know. But I mean, I like a glass of wine, but I don't know. Your rule is your rule, and I applaud you for even having one that makes you feel comfortable in the situation. You have found a way to make yourself comfortable in the situation, and I applaud you on that. I do. Um, mm. Scientologists need their own justice system. Oh wait. Oh, okay, Sleet. But I hear you. Too many. Mocking would be my answer. Well, that's a good question. And if anybody wants to get on that and let me know, I do political stuff too, and I would very curious. This I will admit that the Scientology angle of this is why I'm covering this case. It's definitely not the assault, although I am very interested in the lines of consent, and I always have been intrigued. And I try to do the psychological part of it, the both sides of it, and be as fair as I can about it. As it's, I'm a woman, so people are going to assume I'm on one side of it. And when it comes to me, that's always a mistake. If you haven't heard some of my commentary, don't make an assumption, because I have brothers and I have friends who have had situations of consent happen, which were, I'm embarrassed to actually say, perpetrated by a woman. It makes me ashamed that these things happened. So like I can understand both sides of the issue. So I'll go try to be unbiased about it. And then when I tell you that they have an inordinate amount of pressure, they do, and as they should, because let's just face it, you're the penetrator, which makes you, if there is no consent, a violator. That's just how the English language works. That's how we all look at it, unfortunately, right? Okay, let me tell. I'm going to read this. This is good. Okay. And the character that Danny Masterson played for years was named Hyde. So yeah, it is a little bit of a misnomer there, isn't it? I get it. Sal, I love your comment. My tactic to prevent being slipped a Mickey is to just slam my drink down like a real drinker, avoid the problem altogether. Yes, like what is that? Tequila poppers, just slam that thing, foam it up, throw it back. I hear you, Sal. I hear you. Or just go for the straight. Just go for a straight, not a sipping bourbon or anything like that, but just let's just knock back a bourbon or a scotch or whatever. I get it, but I like wine, But I will tell you that I don't drink out in public very often unless I'm with someone I've been with a long time. We may go to dinner and have wine or whatever. But first dates, second dates with alcoholic beverages doesn't exist in my world anymore. And I don't even know if that was a conscious thing that I did. It just stopped. I don't know. I just don't. All right, so that's it. Now that we've addressed the shots in, let's all have a drink. Sorry if I gave you a headache. If my language upsets you, I'm just going to have to say sorry, not sorry. That's how it is here. I have no choice but to speak directly about these things because I don't write a script. I don't put everything down in writing that I'm going to say. I do know exactly what I want to cover and the points I want to make, and that's it. So it's all just me. Okay, so that's it. If you want to hit my DMs with how I covered it, if you have a point, go right ahead. If you just want to talk about how I shouldn't be talking about it, please don't bother, because you're not going to stop me from talking about it. These kind of conversations need to happen, okay, and they need to happen honestly. How to Raise Young Gentlemen Who Are Not Attracted to Inebriated Partners should be a book one can buy. Exactly. It all starts with what was my one older brother, the oldest one. He would say, easy isn't always worth it. And he's got a point. And that's what he tells all my brothers. And that's what he tells his children. Easy isn't always worth it. Yeah. And but it's society, it's not wrong to have a couple of drinks and relax. I mean, that's not a wrong part. It's the lines, it's the common sense blurring of lines that make it difficult. It's the legal shenanigans that happen when these things happen that also make it difficult. These things shouldn't happen. You know what? That's true, Aaron. I believe this. But, we actually have to have, that's a whole nother conversation, because we actually have to have in our country actual sex ed that is allowed to help prevent, I could go on. Aaron, talk to me. We need to do something about this. Politically, that has been a subject I wanted to talk about in the school system for quite some time, as to why they are keeping it out when it actually prevents all the problems that people are actually going against. They have problems with unwanted pregnancies. They have problems with disease and disorder, or people speaking out of turn about things and not knowing the right thing to do. And things happen to young people that shouldn't, or against their will, or this and that. Consent, actually what it looks like and how it should be actually part of it. I agree. But we actually have to have sex ed in a way in the United States for that to actually happen. And that's a problem. Like how could we possibly teach them about consent when we're not even allowed to teach them about sex or anatomy, biology? Like yeah. Wrecker. I feel like if we're interested when we're drunk, then doing it sober shouldn't be a problem. This is true. This is, you got a good head on your shoulders, Ricker. I understand. It must be difficult though, especially if she's like, "Come on!" Look, I give you a lot of credit if that's your line and you hold it. I give you credit. I really do. No, wait. What? You don't think aspirin can prevent pregnancy? You just put the aspirin between your knees and keep it there until marriage. All right, enough. Okay, I'm out of here because now we're at the joke part of it, and this was a serious stream. Although, I always joke a little bit about everything. Record, don't start. I was giving you credit, and now you're going to come at me. By the way, he's from New Zealand. He's from not from this country, so he's thinking he's going to have a go with me about America and sex ed. But it's true. I have that same go at all of us because we do have to take it on the chin for that, Americans. We don't have sex ed in America appropriately. Like it's like we're scared of it. Like we're going to deny that everybody's not having sex, so we're not going to talk about it. Bullshit. It's just bullshit. I agree. I have to take it on the chin for that record because that is a good joke. Because, I hate how real that fucked up joke is. So do I. It is a joke, but it is the reality of it, and it shouldn't be. It's just messed up. Yep. I get it. But on that, if you all are ready, I'm going to call it. Okay, and I hope that we'll be talking again about these. Definitely. And thank you for contributing. Thank you, everybody who came. And for those of you that are making comments in the chat and actually making it pleasant to go back and forth and answer some of the questions and do this. Thanks. And again, hey, Mocking, thanks for the intro and outro. I'm going to put the outro on now. Yeah, he did that too. And I'll be linking some more things down below. But if you want to check out Mocking's channel, he's also linked below. Click the name. YouTube now lets me highlight the name that it goes right to your channels. For all of you, if you have any other questions or other interesting things about this stream, feel free. You can reach me on Instagram, on Twitter, and even on the back of my YouTube videos. And on that, I tell you to like, comment, and share. And if you haven't already, just break down and subscribe. If you're listening to me, you might just like it a little bit. Like, stop resisting. Just go with it. Come to the dark side. We got cookies. On that, have a good night, everybody. I am toying with the idea of Friday. Well, we'll see. But definitely my next one will be what the actual, fudgery, blah, 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 blah about social media missteps on Saturday night. And then I will also be at the Starsky, the Ukraine stream with Operator Starsky on the Shill's channel. I think that's at 3:00 on Saturday prior to mine. My stream will be later in the evening. On Sunday, there could be a political as usual around 1:00. Not 100% committed to it yet, but it's a good possibility it'll happen. And later that evening at 6:00, I will be back over at the shows with Amy Hogan for an uncalled for. That will be a little serious conversation in regards to China this time. So we'll see you all then. Have a great night, people. Bye.